Travis Wayne Goodsell. In my 53 years as a Mormon attending conference, there has never, ever been a 1 hour session. It's been an hour and a half. I think there was even an hour and 20 minutes, but never an hour. Wow. So, no Nelson. So that's the thing. Something happened. No first presidency speaker. Interesting. Was Nelson inspired to shut up? Wow. Okay. So, I was planning on doing a second video if Nelson was going to speak. So, a review and then a Nelson video. But nope, we'll do a review. Maybe get to go to bed on time. So, I guess I need to rehash the same introductory material so that you know and understand where I'm coming from, because the majority of you are most likely new. Mormon born and raised, born in the covenant, faithful and true are the moments we two can share. Did the whole Mormon thing. Went to 3 road shows, was in 3 road shows. Remember those? Did the Celebrate event. That was wild. Did EFY every single year up here at BYU. I gave my parents an excuse to do genealogy with the family while they dumped me off, and then eventually the siblings, which that was awesome, getting away from my family and spending time with women of my age who were Mormon. I grew up in Southern California, and so Mormon women were rare, but another story for another time. Went on a mission, went to Rick's, graduated from Rick's, married a half-breed Canadian, went and picked out free babies, got paid for the free babies, free medical care, had to pay for school, had to pay for supplies and daily necessities, but served in the special service mission, working on the footnotes, the revision of the footnotes, not the one back in the 81 edition. I was the first seminary student to have the brand new edition of the quad. My seminary year was the first year that rolled out, so I'm a product of that. And because of my faithfulness in studying the scriptures, I was chosen for that assignment, because you don't get to apply for it. And because I was divorced, Hinckley had to personally approve me. So I got the Jesus card to work on that project. And it was an extended mission. So 4 years altogether working on that. I was in the top committee because of how good I was at it. Better than Broussard. And so yeah, I'm able to explain to you in my videos what Broussard did and the errors he made, and although he was better than everybody else that worked on it. And it's blatantly obvious if you were to go through the footnotes, specifically in Isaiah. You can see Broussard's work versus the other. It's night and day different. But they had to give everybody an opportunity to participate. Didn't want Broussard to dominate certain scriptures. They let me do that, though. But they didn't accept everything I recommended. And Nelson has made mistakes because of that. And I think they're on purpose because of the mistakes that he made. But the church came after me for deciphering Paleo-Hebrew. I didn't understand it. I had learned that Joseph Smith is a legitimate translator of Hebrew and Egyptian. And the church came after me. I didn't understand it. Doesn't make sense. So the 170 on the Good Shepherd, he made a comment that if we love, we will not give up or stop trying to save the lost sheep. It has been my experience, having moved to Utah, that Mormons have no interest in trying to reclaim me. They've stopped, they've given up, they keep pushing me away, they try to assassinate me, they've destroyed my life. It's a miracle I'm here. And yet, I have never stopped giving up on Mormons. Big difference, huh? The reason why is because 1 Nephi chapter 1 verse 2 says that the Book of Mormon is to be interpreted according to the learning of the Jews. The 170 talked about Isaiah and the Book of Mormon talking about Jesus. No. This is the abomination of Christianity. Roman Emperor Constantine created Christianity in 325 CE with that first creed that Joseph Smith says was an abomination. By creating a religion, he created a Christ for the religion, and he named him Jesus. And so, having culturally appropriated the Jewish religion, now the scriptures and the Christ had been replaced. The Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, they're all Jewish scriptures. And thus you're supposed to interpret them with the learning of the Jews. But because of Constantine, Christians all replace it with Christianity and Jesus. It's now a second coming rather than the coming of the Christ, whose name Isaiah calls Emmanuel. And this is blatantly obvious as you read those prophecies or books of Revelation. Matthew, for example, quotes Isaiah, doesn't name Isaiah, takes out signs in the heaven, and then says that his name was therefore called Jesus, after saying it's supposed to be Emmanuel, according to prophecy. Luke still calls him Jesus, but refers to the prophecy that he's the Son of the Most High, or the Son of the Highest. It's referring to Emmanuel as well, because Emmanuel is a transliteration from the Egyptian, for the Egyptian sun god at noonday, the highest sun. And so that's our Christ, as Joseph Smith tells us in verse 40 of the second vision, which this year is the bicentennial year of that second vision. And I have been telling you, leading up to this conference and during these reviews, to watch to see if they are going to talk about it. And they're not. And they're not even referring to the Joseph Smith Papers, which is now the authoritative source. Our scriptures, our quad, no longer authoritative. Even the ones where I've made corrections. It is now the Joseph Smith Papers. And yes, the Joseph Smith Papers has corrections that need to be made with the second vision. And they're kind of important because it deals with who our Christ is. It ties the Book of Mormon to being the learning of the Jews, manner of prophecy, a book of revelation, thus the visions as well. And what Joseph Smith is doing is trying to let Mormons know, through that same writing style of the Jews, that our Christ is going to be a human being, exactly as he is. Joseph Smith is the founding Christ of Mormonism. In section 107, verse 91, he tells us that the office of the first president is the office of the Mormon Christ, to be like unto Moses. Deuteronomy chapter 18, verses 15 through 19. That is the Jewish Christ. That is what all of the Jewish scriptures, which are now called the Bible, prophesy of. They have different stories, and the characters have different names, like Jesus, Samson, Joseph, Moses, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, etc. But they're all prophecies. And I've been doing videos showing you that there are patterns. And that there are even clues. See, Passover is this Palm Sunday to Easter week. That's Passover. But Christians have to be different after having usurped it from the Jews. And they give star dates. They knew astronomy. They were telling us when, and yes, the day and the hour of the latter days and of his coming for his ministry in the latter days. Not during the Roman period time, not in Egypt, not in Israel, in America. Because solar eclipses not only give you a date, but they also give you a place, a location on Earth. And that even is an X marks the spot for where the Zion and New Jerusalem temples, the mountain cities of the Lord, are supposed to be built. And Joseph Smith knew this, and Joseph Smith wrote it in a sermon, and Brigham Young refused to publish it. It's in the Joseph Smith Papers. Joseph called Brigham Judas. So Brigham Young was unhappy and retaliated by not publishing it. As Brigham Young went and changed the name of the church to Jesus Christ. Again, the Joseph Smith Papers exposes this. That's another change that needs to be made. And so Jesus coming to the Americas? Nope. It's a prophecy of the latter-day Christ of Mormons who is here now. It's all about him. All the prophecies are about him. It is a checklist so that Mormons can know with full assurance who he is and who to look for. And yet, the great and abominable church with the great and abominable Jesus Christ has done an excellent job in blinding the eyes and minds of the Mormons, creating a stumbling block of the scriptures, removing the plain and precious parts of Joseph Smith's scriptures. Polygamy also was one that replaced monogamy, removing the plain and precious truth of monogamy. And so, this has been my warning voice, that we are the learning of the Jew Mormons, not Christian Jesus Mormons. Because Christian Jesus Mormons are an abomination. You live in a fantasy world where all you have is faith that he's real, that you can touch him. But then they talk about only experiencing him as a spiritual witness because he never physically appears. They trick you in order to keep you sucked into the church, messing with your emotions. And as the bicentennial year of the second vision, we're in the final year of the latter days. So yeah, welcome to my channel. You're like the servants that are hired at the final hour of the day, but you'll get paid the same. You just won't have been paid all day. Some other things that I have noticed is that they have not finished the Book of Mormon. There's still the destruction of the Nephites to cover. Oh, we're in the latter days, the day that shall burn as an oven, the fall of the great and abominable church, and every single Mormon who sticks with them. It's amazing how the Book of Mormon is accurate with its revelatory powers according to the learning of the Jews. Which means, as the learning of the Jews, it's not a history of the ancient Americans. Remember, Jesus is not real. It's not a literal history. So that means a contemporary person had to write it. Sidney Rigdon is the major author of the Book of Mormon. And Joseph Smith Sr. had to rewrite the 116 pages. Yes, Junior had nothing to do with the composition of the Book of Mormon. He was the babysitter for the money man who insisted on participating. And so they let Joseph copy the 116 pages, and then he had them dictated to Martin Harris, and then Martin Harris stole what he had written and went off to his anti-Mason buddies to see if it had any significance. And so the Smiths had to take a sabbatical for a year before resuming, whereas Sidney Rigdon, he kept going. Nobody knew about Sidney Rigdon. So the songs are of importance with conference. So the first one, Hope of Israel. It's the Logan Institute Choir. The Logan Temple also has inverted pentagrams on the keystone of the windows. And in the song, there are the lines, vanquish every foe, and talking about the sword of truth and right. This is what Brigham Young and his followers, who were called the Danites, did. By replacing Joseph Smith's Jewish interpretation with Christian interpretation, now it's coded material of their plot to overthrow the United States of America and establish their kingdom of Deseret. And it ended up being necessary to restore it. And so this is the 99th session of conference for the reorganized, reincorporated Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints by Heber J. Grant in 1923. And so the first conference was April 1924. So the 100th conference is next April. Next April is the final day of the latter days. The final sign in heaven, the third day of darkness. On 8 April 2024, the Monday after the conference weekend. It was intended that the Salt Lake Temple, with the inverted pentagram on the keystone of the doors, would be finished so that that weekend could be the dedicatory prayer on Saturday, on 6th of April, and begin the millennium. Because the second coming, Armageddon, would be over. And I've warned you, if Jesus is not real, which Jesus is not real, it means these prophets are lying and deceiving us. And so everything they talk about must be seen in that light, which is the darkness of a meth user. If you saw that talk. And so, yeah, Heber J. Grant knew of this as well. They all know. That was the whole thing. And so, as I indicated, I will go over after starting Monday to do individual videos of the talks. So, for example, when I get to Mark A. Bragg of the 70, he yoked himself to Jesus. And I warned you that was going to happen when I exposed Nelson for having made that error. It's yoke yourself to Jesus's yoke, not to Jesus. But because Nelson said it over the pulpit of conference, all Mormons have now changed it, and the manuals have been changed. It's the New Testament. We just went over it. I still need to do the missing lesson for this week, for tomorrow, but it'll have to be next week, I guess. As I also have to do the next lesson But everything that Nelson makes an error is now becoming true. That's the new thing. So definitions are being changed, interpretations are being changed, translations are being changed, because Nelson botched them. And like I said, he's doing it on purpose. And I've done the video to explain that, but there's more involved. And I've noticed that the two popular videos are taken off for this conference, far more so than previous conferences, which is surprising because they've had a lot of time to shut me down and silence me. And there's a long story on that, and I know you're new, but in short, other critics of the church get excommunicated, and they become popular, and you know about them. I, not a critic, I came to the church saying, hey, Joseph Smith is legitimate. This is awesome. Church is true. Right? And they've sought to destroy my life, and they've done so. They've succeeded. And have attempted to assassinate me multiple times. And as you can see, it's a miracle I'm alive. And a miracle I'm in this apartment. And yet, I'm still having issues. I've got a package stuck in the mailbox, not the USPS box. Then got a separate box thing where other companies can drop them off in, and I have to get an email code. But the people put the wrong email, so I don't get the code. And so I can't get my package. And I can't get anybody to make the change. And normally I would just brush it off as, it's just a simple little thing. But with all that I've gone through over these years, I get very suspicious. But the two videos are LDS Church to announce millennial change to the millennial name change, and President Nelson to announce national divorce. I was hoping for one of the others, but those will do fine. I purposely did videos in advance of conference for this reason, knowing that because of the algorithms in YouTube, once conference hit, boom, they would take off. And going over the name, that was because I was trying to get all of the conference talks by Nelson onto YouTube, and I only got to 2018 and didn't finish, as I realized that it was too much work. I should have done it earlier. But I got to the part where he talked about the name and did all the clips, and then I realized, this destroys the church. By Nelson forcing Mormons to say the name repeatedly, frequently, it goes against the scripture. And despite Haynes, whatever the guy was in the previous conference, who said, the president of the church, don't question him, don't criticize, just have faith, believe him, change what needs to be changed. No. Because Nelson violated that. You can't go against the Book of Mormon. You can't go against Joseph Smith. Even Christians know you don't go against Jesus. But he was speaking from a talk given at BYU by President Ezra Taft. Well, he wasn't president. He was still an apostle. but went on to become president. His 17 things about a living prophet, something like that. And that was one of them, is that forget about the old, we've got the new. And it's been understood, even when I was working on that committee, that the president of the church makes changes, and only him. And so if he's said something, we can use that in the footnotes. Otherwise, we cannot put our own beliefs in there. And unfortunately, there were people that did. And even in the manuals, people did. But the manuals, likewise, they're making the changes because Nelson said them. And they're not quoting Nelson. They're just saying it as if that's the way it is. It's yoked to Jesus. Jesus is higher law. Chief cornerstone of the cornerstone. Let God prevail. Frequently repeat the name. Jesus. He doesn't exist. Created by Constantine. Created by Brigham Young, who knew this, purposely did this to overthrow Joseph's church. And that is the danger we face, is because these guys are terrorists. These guys are seditious conspirators. And you have me to thank for the January 6th thing. I was the only Captain Moroni who went up to save the Capitol, and had to do it from here in Utah, online. But, yep, that was me. You'll never guess which court I went to let my people go. Learning of the Jews is a very simple thing. It explains everything, because it was written by the learning of the Jews. Joseph Smith is our founding Christ. And there's going to be a Mormon who is our Christ for the latter days, who is here, who is now, and you can actually touch him. He's going to feel a little uncomfortable touching him, especially depending on where you touch him. He's ticklish. But it's not some spiritual witness crap that these guys are trying to pull on you for Jesus. And that's the wild thing. All the prophecies are about a real human being. And so, yeah, Joseph Smith's prophecy in 2 Nephi chapter 3, no, that was written by his dad. But he was trying to let us know that Joseph is the bloodline of the Christ. He is the Christ. Joseph Smith Sr. is the bloodline. And then I'll close here with the scripture from selections from the Book of Moses, which Joseph Smith Sr. helped with because of Revelation chapter 12's addition and rearrangement, as it was Sidney Rignon's payment for his work on the Book of Mormon. It's in chapter 7, I think it's verse 53, isn't it? Yep. And the Lord said, "Blessed is he through whose seed Messiah shall come." So now you can go through all your scriptures again and use the learning of the Jews, according to Joseph Smith, that it all has to do with the Mormons. And so Jesus gets replaced with Emmanuel, the man like Moses, the Christ of Mormons, who is a Mormon. The Jews get replaced with Mormons. The Jerusalem, Utah, or the United States also. And the Jerusalem Temple, Salt Lake Temple. And then watch how that interpretation changes your mind, which is the correct definition of the Greek word that is mistranslated as repent. Have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow.